Daphne has arrived at the palace and naturally turns heads. While waiting for the Queen, Lady Bridgerton nabs some snacks, whispering to Daphne that no one is paying her any attention. Just then, the Queen and Prince are announced. Frederick is thrilled that Daphne accepted his invitation. He gives her a necklace, which he fastens around her neck, and as he does, Daphne can't help but imagine that it's Simon. Back at home, Daphne passes Gregory, who is playing marbles, and gets bombarded by Hyacinth, who's curious if she'll become a princess. Hyacinth fires off more questions, but Daphne says the only matter is she marries the prince. Alone, Daphne fingers the necklace thoughtfully. Simon is practicing boxing when Will and his wife Alice arrive. Will senses Simon is picturing a prince as his punching bag. Simon tells Will he's leaving England and will miss their match. Will, worried about his own prospects, begs Simon not to abandon him as he needs Simon's help. Marina faces scrutiny from a potential suitor, Lord Rutledge. While Lady Featherington lists her virtues, Rutledge agrees to take Marina to an upcoming ball. Once he's gone, Marina protests, saying she's had better suitors. Lady Featherington insists they need someone who won't ask questions when Marina gives birth in 6 months. Marina passes Prudence and Philippa, ignoring Penelope's offer to stay in. Lady Featherington questions Lord Featherington about sending Marina back to her father, but he shuts down the discussion. Their footman announces a visitor, Albion Finch, who's there for Philippa, not Marina, much to Lady Featherington's relief. Eloise grumbles to Penelope about fashion and the expectation that she'll be the next to marry after Daphne. Eloise envies Lady Whistledown's freedom and wants to meet her. She suggests Penelope fake an illness to help her find Lady Whistledown, but Penelope says she can't fake an illness and instead promises to cheer Eloise's efforts. Anthony leads Daphne to the fight where Frederick waits. Frederick admits he arranged for Anthony to bring her so they could spend some time together. Daphne hesitates when she sees Simon but recovers and accepts Frederick's invitation. Simon and Will discuss sparring with Lord Featherington, who bets against Will, favouring the prince's man instead. As the match begins, Daphne watches Simon more than the fight. She and Frederick talk about family and children, while Simon is distracted by Daphne. They end up cheering for opposite sides, but Will wins the match, which angers Lord Featherington. Lord Featherington is being hounded by creditors. He begs them for more time to gather funds. Henry Granville is quizzing Benedict about his taste in paintings. Benedict stammers an apology, but Henry dismisses it, inviting Benedict to his studio. Anthony tells Simon he misjudged him, acknowledging Simon's honourable intentions with Daphne. Frederick pulls Anthony away for a word while Simon watches from a distance. Lady Bridgerton is scandalised that Anthony took Daphne to a fight and left her alone. Daphne downplays seeing Simon, and then Anthony tells her Frederick has asked for permission to propose. Daphne is shocked, but Anthony says the decision is hers. Lady Bridgerton advises Daphne to keep her options open. Lady Danbury sees Simon off, warning him he'll end up lonely if he lets Daphne slip away. She urges him to look at the royal marriage as proof that love conquers all. Simon remains sceptical, promising to write from wherever he goes. At Lady Trowbridge's party, Lady Whistledown cautions against getting too caught up in the festivities. The Featheringtons arrive and Marina is quickly paired with Lord Rutledge. Albion Finch dances with Philippa, while Lady Featherington dreams of 2 weddings, though Lord Featherington is doubtful. Cressida confronts Daphne, upset she took the prince. Daphne brushes her off and dances with Frederick. Lady Bridgerton watches, distress. Simon spots a painting he had returned, reminding him of his mother and Daphne. Benedict visits Henry's studio, finding a scene more risque than expected. Henry encourages Benedict to embrace his own talents without judgment. Sienna performs at the party, catching Anthony's eye. Lady Bridgerton introduces him to Miss Addington, but he remains focused on Sienna. Lady Featherington compliments Lady Trowbridge's taste before being interrupted by her daughters. Philippa is upset after Lord Featherington scares off Albion Finch. Lady Featherington demands answers from her husband, but he remains silent. Eloise suspects Mrs. Wilson is Lady Whistledown, but Miss Wilson laughs it off, explaining servants don't have the time or money for such things. Penelope watches Marina dance with Lord Rutledge. Colin walks up to her and he jokes about the baby of Lady Trowbridge. He's puzzled by Marina's interest in Lord Rutledge, but Penelope explains Marina seeks a swift rescue. Colin steps in to dance with Marina and they joke about Lord Rutledge. Frederick and Daphne dance and talk about family, but Daphne becomes anxious. She excuses herself and rushes outside, removing the necklace. Simon follows, intending to say goodbye. Daphne insists she'll marry the prince and be happy, but Simon doubts her. They argue until Simon admits that he can't give her children. Daphne walks away, and when Simon catches up to her, they share a passionate kiss. He apologizes, but she leans back in and they continue kissing. Anthony spots them and knocks Simon to the floor. He tells Simon that he must marry Daphne immediately. When Simon tells him no, Anthony challenges him to a duel at dawn. This upsets Daphne as it looks like Simon would rather die than marry her. Back at the party, Anthony tells Colin Daphne has a headache and they leave. Cressida asks Daphne she caught a chill in a garden. Benedict continues drawing at Henry's studio, and Henry offers a judgment-free space for Benedict to be himself. Knowing something is amiss with her husband, Lady Featherington searches his drawers while she has Mrs. Varley guard the door. Marina talks to Penelope about Colin, unaware that Penelope has feelings for him. She goes on to tell Penelope that if she marries Colin, she won't have to leave town, and as Penelope and Eloise are close, they would all be like sisters. Penelope doesn't want to hear anymore and she tucks herself into bed. When Marina leaves, she gets up and cries as she paces the room. She hears tapping, and when she checks her window, she sees Eloise. Eloise wants to tell Penelope about her Lady Whistledown theory. She believes her to be a widow. Penelope doesn't want to hear anymore and tells Eloise that she is mature and she has things like marriage to worry about and that she doesn't expect Eloise to understand her struggles. Eloise walks away crying. Anthony has taken Daphne back home. He tells her that he isn't angry and doesn't blame her. Despite her trying to take some of the blame, he tells her that he should have protected her better from the start. Daphne doesn't want Anthony and Simon to duel and thinks that there should be another way. Anthony does not believe that there is. When Benedict returns home, Anthony sends Daphne to bed so that they can talk. Anthony asks Benedict to be his second. If Anthony dies, the title and estate will pass to Benedict. If Anthony manages to kill Simon, he would need to leave the country and Benedict will be the head of the family in every way that matters. Meanwhile, Simon is desperately looking for a drink in Will's home. Simon tells Will about the duel. Will tries to tell Simon to apologise, but when Simon tells him it won't work as it has something to do with Daphne, Will instead tells Simon he would be his second. Anthony visits Sienna, proposing they flee together if he survives the duel. They share a passionate moment before he leaves. Lady Featherington confronts her husband about his gambling and debts, discovering he squandered their money. She demands a solution, but he breaks down, admitting he's failed. Daphne learns the duel's location from Colin and rides out to stop it. She reaches them just as Anthony fires into the air. Daphne insists on marrying Simon to avoid ruin despite his reluctance, as they were seen by Cressida Cowper and she would be ruined if they don't marry. He tells her that he can't give her children and that she deserves to have a life full of love like the one she grew up in. Anthony calls for the duel to resume, but Daphne says there is no need as she will be marrying Simon anyway. That's it for the recap on Bridgerton. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and please stay tuned for the next recap.